Hi everyone, I want to do a quick video on how to glaze your vase and your egg. I'm going to start off with the vase. So we have a cart full of colors that you need to think about and choose from. I want to point out some things about our glazes before you think that you're going to go ahead with a color. Please notice what the color actually says. If it doesn't show, like this one does not show, a test tile on the front of it of what color it is going to turn out to be, I want you to Google search. The brand is Amico. The name is Exotic Blue, and you can look up the glaze. Exotic Blue, it's one of my favorite. It's actually like probably a shade or two lighter than Royal Blue, which most of you are familiar with. And this one in particular, Artist Choice, it has a quality about it that is a little iridescent. It has a variation in it, and it just makes it a more interesting blue rather than a flat blue. But I'm going to go ahead and start with this color because I know I like this blue. Make sure when you shake these that your hand is always on the cover. They will pop off and you will wear the glaze if it comes off. So I don't want anyone to have glaze all over them. So shake it really good. For the vase, first make sure you've got yourself a banding wheel, a paper towel, and your vase on there. You want to have some brushes at your side and a bucket of water, clean water. You want to first take the dust off. When I fire, dust gets on them. When they sit for a while, dust gets on them, so you just want to take a very lightly damp sponge and take off the dust. We're going to start with the inside. I'm going to go ahead because I know I'm going to be using this for some of the outside too. I'm going to pour it in, and it's okay to do this. Our vases have a very small opening. You can fit a brush in there and do 3 coats by brushing, but you can also pour it in, roll it around, and then pour it right back into the bottle. Just make sure not to have another bottle of glaze open or cross-contaminate. And I'm just going to dump that in. Okay, so that's it. Make sure the extra is out, and now you're ready to go. All right. On the banding wheel, you could turn and make sure that you coat the entire piece with one color. You don't necessarily have to do the inside the same color as the outside, but I'm going to have it so that I've got this exotic blue on the inside and the outside. I want you to put 3 generous coats on. That's what they call for. You have to let them dry in between, otherwise you'll have what's called crawling, or you'll really be putting on just a very light coat and you won't like the look because it'll look streaky and unfinished. So make sure that you let it dry between coats. Often I tell my students to just put a little mark on your paper towel every time you do a coat so that you'll know, because after 2 coats it's really hard to tell how many you have on. And I'll have students ask me if it looks like they've got 3 coats on. I could never tell that. So sometimes I can see if a student went too light. As you can see, I've got a very small vase here that I'm doing, so it's taking a little bit. I don't want to knock it over. But I don't want you to skimp on the glaze. For each coat, you could generously put on. Make sure that you cover everything. Don't worry about the underneath for right now. I'm a messy glazer. Right now, I'm just concerned about getting everything covered. Making sure there's no bisqueware showing. Oh. Okay. Also, when you set up for glazing, make sure that you are not also in the process of using clay. You don't want your clay or the glaze to touch the clay or the clay to touch the glaze. It will ruin the look and you'll cross-contaminate the clay. Let's go over here. So I'm going to let that dry. So I'm going to do 3 coats with this. All right, I have one that is done, and I'm actually in the process of putting a second coat for the top. For the vase, you are going to choose 2 colors. One for the inside and the outside. It could be the same. You could change it up. I have examples on the cart in the room. This is going to be exotic blue. If you can see, I know the camera's not doing it justice, but it looks like a very pale purple right now. And as it dries and gets chalky, it's just going to look like a lavender. It fires to a deep blue. And that's the difference between these and underglazes or colored slips. It's such a big difference. What you see in the bottle is not what you get in the firing process. So just keep that in mind. That's why you have to make sure that you read the color and that you understand the color that it's going to come out to be. So I want to show you this one I had finished. So this color is called Autumn Leaf. When it goes on, it looks like a medium gray, but you can see that on the label there is an idea, and you can clearly see that it's a light brown. It's almost like a tan, actually. This opalescent has an iridescent look to it. So if you're choosing opalescence, this is a great one to go over the Artist Choice. And what I'm doing is just reading the bottle. Artist Choice, Exotic Blue, and Autumn Leaf. They're 2 very different colors. Obviously this is a neutral, it's a tan, but it's also light. My Exotic Blue is a dark blue. So this is going to really have a nice contrast. And that's what I'm going for. You'll see my samples in class. I have the Snapdragon as a base. I have black for one of mine for a band of color, and I have royal blue for another. Those are some ideas. You are certainly welcome to use your own ideas. Here's another great color too, is Bluebell. This is available to use. You don't have to necessarily choose the colors I choose, but I want you to just understand, if you choose 2 colors that are very similar looking together, you might not get the same effect, and you might not see that there is a difference. So just keep that in mind. So what I need to put on this is my Autumn Leaf and my Exotic Blue. And I put 1 coat on so far, and all I did was go around, and I'm not worried about it being perfectly even, but I'm doing a band of color at the top. The reason I'm going to keep it at the top is because when in the firing process this breaks down to glass, this is going to fall. It's going to drip and slide and move downward. And I don't want it to go so far down that it sticks to the kiln shelf. So use the square brushes that we have in the classroom. They're on the cart with the glazes. And you're going to just put a band right at the top. I would say use 1/4 of the way down or 1/3 of the way down max, so that you know that you're not going to jeopardize the piece getting stuck to the kiln shelf because it dripped too much. I'm just going to go in there. If it drips inside, that's okay. So now I'm finished. I've got 3 coats of my Autumn Leaf, and I've got 2 coats of the Exotic Blue, and I'm up high enough. That Exotic Blue is going to fall, and it's going to cause a really nice effect. So we'll see what this one looks like. Again, check out the ones that I have on our cart, and that's how you glaze the vase. You do the inside first, and the outside is going to have a contrasting color for the top. Okay, for the egg, I want you to have a contrasting color to white. So I'm going to turn this over. Let's do this. So don't choose yellow. Don't choose a light blue. I would not choose Bluebell for what I'm about to show you because you won't see it. This egg I did as a demonstration for my class yesterday, and it actually has the inlay in it and 2 coats of clear. So you can no longer see the inlay. You can get a little glimpse of it right here. So what you want to keep in mind again is contrast. What we're about to do is show off all the carving that you did. So if you wipe this clean, and I'm going to choose a contrasting color of, actually, camel. I'm going to stick with exotic blue for this one because I know the blue is dark. All right, so I'm going to make sure I stir it back up. And for this, I'm going to put this on pretty heavy. What I want to do is make sure that it fills in all the little cracks. All my carving. This is why when we were doing this project, I wanted to make sure that you did the carving, that they had wide marks, wide carvings, and that you went deep enough so that when you push the glaze in, it would show and it would accept it. If your carving is too narrow or too thin, really the glaze is just going to end up going over it. It'll fill it in. It'll fill in the lines. All right, so you can see this dries really fast. As soon as it starts getting chalky looking, you know it's okay to wipe. Again, you need a clean sponge, and you need to squeeze out the sponge with all your might so that when you hold it over a paper towel, you're not seeing it drip down. I want just a damp sponge, and I want to just wipe off the surface. What's going to happen is all the exotic blue is going to stay in my carving. I know it's probably tricky to see on the camera, but that very pale purple is just resting in all my carvings. I do have egg examples on the cart too for you to see. I wanted you to have a start today in glazing. Even if you just get this far, that's perfectly fine. Also with glazing, if you don't get to finish it in one class period, that's absolutely fine. It'll wait for you till next class. It's not going to hurt it to sit on the shelf. What you do need to do though is record how many coats that you put on or how far you got in the process. All right, so now my egg is just sitting here with all the exotic blue in my carving. So, and I can see that in person. So the next thing I need is clear transparent. Now I have two kinds of clear on the cart. This one happens to be a white base. There's one that has a pink base. I've got clear that looks green. When it fires clear and completely transparent. And that's what I'm about to do now, is put my 3 coats of clear on this. And it is a thinner glaze, as you can see. And I'm just going to make sure again that I'm generous with the coverage. This is going to have it, give it a rich and protected seal. It's going to look rich and it's going to give it dimension. It's going to look beautiful. Also, if I were to fire this without putting clear on it, it would feel as bisqueware, even though it would be fired to its full vitrification, and it would be the solid clay that it should be and not bisqueware. If it got dirty, you wouldn't be able to clean it. The oils from our hand would keep accumulating on it, and you really don't want that. This is going to bring out the carving and really make the blue look rich as well. So that's it. I'm going to wait for this to dry. You have to let glaze dry between coats. It's a must of anything that you need to remember, aside from making sure that they are stirred because all the chemicals settle, making sure that you've got a clean space, the right size brush. Do not use a tiny brush to glaze. That doesn't make sense. Clean water and a clean sponge, and let it dry between coats and you will be good to go.